Alright, so this is my honest review of the 25-ton Countyline log splitter that I got from Harbor Freight about 3 weeks ago. Overall, when this thing's running, it's a great splitter. I split about that much in about an hour by myself, and that was cutting and splitting. If I back up, you can kind of see some of these logs are pretty big. So overall, it's a fast splitter for what it is, and I mean I'm splitting oak, and I haven't had any problems with it. Some of the pieces were pretty knotty. My biggest complaint, and it might be a deal breaker for some of you until I get a chance to talk to Kohler and Countyline and see what they're going to do, is if you're like me, this thing gets stored outside. And what happens when this thing stores outside? Let me show you. The way that the wing nut is on top of the carburetor here and the air filter assembly, the rain hits that. It settles inside of that thing. Oh, why is that nut all rusty? Heck, I don't know. Let's investigate. So, obviously that's been exposed to rain. Oh, look. That's a common stud that goes, well, let's just follow that down. Where does it go? Oh, look, there's more rust on the top of the air filter. Oh my goodness, that rust goes all the way down right into the throat of the damn intake. How flippin' stupid could you be, Kohler? So the rain sits on top of this, catches in the top of this thing, builds up a little bit, starts to go down the stud, as you can see by the rust, straight into the throat of the dang clean air filter. Oh, so where does that go? Well, I'm not going to rip this whole thing apart, but basically it goes in here, water accumulates down in the carburetor. And so what does that mean? That means as soon as you go to start this thing, you just suck a bunch of water into the cylinder. And I took some other footage, but when I bought this thing from the store and got it home, there was so much dang water in this thing that when I went to pull the pull start, I mean, you can see it comes pretty easy now, but the dang piston was seized up in there. I literally had to yank on this with both hands. I'm surprised I didn't break the recoil to break the piston free. And I gave it a couple tugs, and I mean, water was just puking out of the exhaust. Puking. Now, that's not something you expect on a brand new engine. I've probably, I don't know, I've run about a tank and a half through this. Same thing happened to me today. It'd been sitting out for, I haven't run it in 2 weekends. And I went to go fire it up today, and nothing. At least this time, nothing came out of the exhaust immediately when it pulled. But I pulled the spark plug out, gave it a few tugs, and I mean, it was just puking off water. So the only way to really deal with it is to, thank goodness, Kohler at least put a quick bowl drain on the bottom of the carb that just takes an 8mm socket, and it's got like a phenolic or rubber O-ring on it. So apparently they expect you to drain the freaking carburetor every time this thing sits in the rain, which sucks. It really sucks. I mean, it would be super simple if this thing had another stud coming off somewhere that wasn't a common stud right into the dang throat of the freaking intake. So I don't know, either I'm gonna have to just cover this thing when it sits outside, which I know most of you say, oh well, big deal, buy a $10 tarp and throw it over your splitter. Well, guess what, tarps, they wear out when they sit out in the sun. You know, it's just a thing, another thing they have to buy when you buy a $1,000 freaking log splitter. It shouldn't be that way. So I'll contact them, see what they have to say. My buddy has this splitter, but he keeps it inside, so therefore he's really never had this issue. And that's why I bought this splitter, because I borrowed his a couple times, and this thing's a hell of a splitter. It just seems like that's just a huge oversight on Kohler's part. So I'll show a quick video, or later on in the video I'll show you where I did dump out the fuel from the carburetor, and you can see clear as day there's a crap load of water in it. And again, it's not like I submerged this thing and was spraying it down with a hose. I mean, it just sat out for 2 weeks and a little bit of rain here in South Carolina. So so this is my brand new Kohler engine on my Countyline splitter. I've run about a half tank of fuel in it. I just filled it up. I started it 2 weeks ago. It was half seized when I started it. I pulled the spark plug out, did the same thing it's doing today, spewing water out of the exhaust, spewing out of the spark plug hole. Here, let me see if I can get this. Maybe I'll hold my phone right here and get some water right on the camera. I already got most of the water out of it, but it keeps fouling the plug because the dang thing gets wet. Won't stay running. It's pretty neat that a engine rated or put on a piece of outdoor equipment can't seem to keep water out of the cylinder. Good job, Kohler. Good job. All right, so this is the little bit of water and gas that I emptied out of my Kohler 6.5 horse engine that's on my Countyline splitter. I mean, you can see it there. There's a lot of water in that little bit of fuel. It's unfortunate. That accumulated in the carburetor from just sitting out in 2 weeks. And it's not like we had 12 inches of rain or anything. I mean, it was just a couple of passing rainstorms, typical here in South Carolina. Yeah, don't let this thing sit out in the rain, because that's what you get in your carburetor. It's freaking